Hi guys, in this video, we're going to be going step by step as to how you can start your own podcast. I'll take you all throughout the way and we can even do it together. So first thing is first, I have a workbook here in which you can start off by answering these questions to start creating your podcast. So the first thing you need to do is figure out what are you hoping to achieve from your podcast. For me here, the podcast I'm creating is to inspire young entrepreneurs by sharing success stories. So the next thing you do is identify your target audience. And for me, I'm aiming we're between 25 to 35. So then you also need to clarify your content. Like, what would your podcast be about? So for me, the podcast I'll be creating is going to be focused on entrepreneurship and self-growth. Next, you need to come up with a structure for the podcast. So for me, I want to create weekly interviews, right? And each episode is about 45 minutes long. Then you want to evaluate the production options. So you want to see, do you have a production studio? Would you be doing it at home? What options do you have? So let's assume for the sake of, for the video, let's say we do have a good microphone and we do have good lights and we'll be doing it in-house. And I'll show you the steps very shortly as to how to create a video indoors. The next thing you want to figure out is a distribution platform. You want to know where you're going to be distributing your podcast to. For example, you need a hosting platform. Now, what is a hosting platform? A hosting platform, think of it like a hub. So it's a big basket where you upload all your content. For example, you do an episode, you upload it to this big basket here. And what this big basket does is it distributes it to other smaller baskets. So take, for example, the smaller basket in this scenario is going to be iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. So what you do is you upload your episode into the big basket, and then the big basket distributes it to iTunes and Spotify. Now, what is this big basket? So what are a few options? SoundCloud used to be a great one, but today we have Buzzsprout, which is what I use. So I hope that's clear to you. Next is also you need to figure out how are you going to be monetizing in the future. You don't have to have that figured out now, but just come up with a strategy. For me, in my case, I want to consider affiliate marketing and like sponsored episode. The next thing you want to do is understand what you stand to gain from launching or starting your own podcast. There could be a lot of reasons. Some people want to be perceived as experts, so you can easily become the key person of influence in your industry. If you are a videographer and you create a videography podcast, you easily become the key person of influence, and that comes with a lot of perks and benefits. Also you get to network with other people. So people tend to, when you reach out to guests to come on your podcast, people typically always say yes because people like to share their story. So you're building a lot of network one-on-one meetings with people who maybe with other podcasts would have never really want to sit down with you, but because you have a podcast, they might want to sit down with you, and you have their attention for an hour, and you can convert this to whatever you want to convert them to do, to sales or business partnership. There's a lot of opportunities there if you decide to go that route. There's benefits to being launching or starting your own podcast or being a podcaster. The next thing you want to figure out is your title and branding. So you want to create a compelling title so that when people see it, they kind of have an idea as to what the podcast is about. So take, for example, if I was to name this, I could say the name of my podcast is Money Moves, Your Guide to Financial Freedom. Like, I can use that as the name of my podcast title. So the next thing you want to create is also a logo and a cover art. You want to pick something that matches your theme, stands out. You create a cover art, and basically the cover art is basically what people will see when they search your name on iTunes, for example. When they search Money Moves, you want something to show up that makes sense or that looks great. So typically people can easily put your face. I recommend maybe starting off, use your face at the very beginning. It's great because people can easily, I know this person, and then they can want to listen to you. People connect more to that than necessarily graphics, but it's completely up to you. You decide. So that's what the cover art is, and you can use Canva to design most of these things. So when you go to Canva, just simply search podcast cover art. There's a bunch of examples, and you can just simply edit any one of those templates. Step number 3 is figuring out your equipment. If you are going to be doing this by yourself, or you're going to be going to a studio, you need to figure that out. But in this video, I'm going to provide you some options as to consider. So let's go with the assumption that you're going to do this by yourself, either in your office or at home. I have some items here that are beneficial for you. So here's a list of items that you can pick from. If you're doing a budget-friendly option, that's on the lower end. Here's it, and here's the prices. Honestly, you can start with $400. You can honestly create a mini podcast studio at home. So this here has all the items you will need. You will need your microphone, and this, given the fact that you might have to use your iPhone to record the video podcast, your hosting platforms, how much that will cost, your lighting and your editing software, all of that, you're looking about close to roughly, you can spend max 400, 500 to get this off the ground, right? That's a very beginner friendly option. And then there's different options here. If you look over here too as well, I also have a professional podcast setup. Everything you need, from the mic, cloud lifters, recorders, mixers, cameras, lens, editing software, all that breakdown, and the link too as well as to where you can get them. Your other option too as well is if you're going for a professional podcast setup. So these are if it makes sense for you to go all out in it and create a system or setup that's just, hey, I just want to come in, sit down, press record, and have phenomenal videos and phenomenal audios. You can definitely use this option too as well. So here's all the link, and here's all the items you will need. Now, I can share with you what my setup looks like, so you can have an idea as to how it is, because this is all you need for a podcasting anyways. So what I have here is, if you look directly in front of me, what I have here is I have my camera just directly pointed at me. I have my mic right on top. That's this right here is my microphone, and it connects directly to one that's right on my chest. And it's just on a tripod. It's just directly in front of me. And to my left hand side, what I have is my light source. So if this is a light box, it's right over here. It's on the left hand side. You always want to have it this way. If you have your camera in front of you, you want to put your light on the left or on the right, but typically here, because you want to create a nice shadow on your face. So this is the typical setup. So you can purchase one of these microphones over here. Typically, this is all you need to start your own podcast and do a video podcast. So you might ask yourself, like, why would you want to do a video podcast? In today's day and age, you probably want to do video podcasting because it's absolutely essential. You don't have to, but it's actually beneficial if you do, because you can chop up those clips and put them on social media, put them on Instagram, Facebook, or wherever to garner a lot of attention. So typically that's what people do. When they start your podcast, they create video content because short video content is easy to digest. Podcast is a long form, so it's harder to get people to commit to you. But if you make short form videos, it's absolutely beneficial, and people would consume those quickly. And then hopefully, if you build enough cachet with them, then they want to go in and listen to your long form podcast. So this has everything, all the information you need. The next thing you want to figure out is episode planning. So it's planning for each episode. So take, for example, here, you want to say, all right, if you are going to be interviewing somebody, who would you interview? You want to prepare that in advance. Next thing you want to look at is define the main topic or the theme of this particular episode you're going to be creating. Next is you want to research the topics, like put in notes here of things you've read, things you want to highlight while the episode is going on. You want to structure the episode, have a proper intro, your main points that you want to pass across, and the outro. You don't necessarily have to have a script, but if you want a script, that's perfectly nice. Sometimes for podcasting, having bullet points just so you don't miss anything, or the moment you lose out of content, you can always refer back to your bullet points and then continue with that. You want to make sure that if you are going to be producing yourself, you figure that out, or if you are going to be going to a podcast studio, you need to figure that out too as well. And you always want to make sure you've confirmed guests. Sometimes the problem with podcasting with other people is that you need to work with their schedule, so it's not definitely the easiest of things to figure out, especially when people have different schedules. So you make sure that you're prepared in advance for anything. The next thing is editing and publishing your video content. So A typical setup for a podcast is having an intro at the beginning, an outro at the end, and then a music overlay. That's the basic way to edit a podcast. So I'm going to show you a quick, very easy way to start editing your podcast for those of you who are kind of lost. So here's CapCut. You open CapCut, it's free. Once you open it, this is what you get. So you just go ahead and create a project, and then what you want to do is you want to click on import, and then you can import the particular your podcast videos and your intro and outro. So what you do is you simply drag and drop it into the timeline, and if you have an intro, you can put the intro here, assuming this is, and then put your outro. This is the outro, put that in here. Now you can do that. Now if you want to scrub across, this is how you scrub across it, by clicking on this cursor and going along. And if, for example, you have errors or mistake, you do the letter B, you press letter B, you break it, that's a blade, you cut it here, and then use A to select, and you can select that portion that you've just cut off, and you can just simply delete it, and it automatically fills it out, right? Once you're done, you want to go in here where it says export. This is where how you want to export your video once you are done editing it. If you want to edit it just audio only, you can click on this and you can put the format in which you want to export it as, and you can export this. Click on export. You definitely click on where you want to save it, save the file. Once you click on that, you hit export and you're done, and that exports just the audio. And then if you want to do it with the video, you don't need to check that box, and you can just export it. Now this is the quickest way, simplest way to start editing. If you guys want more detail, I'm happy to share, but just want to cover out the basics. So this is the people in their area. So that's the quickest way in which you can start editing your podcast right now. Once you've done editing it and you have your actual video, what you want to do is you want to host that, just like I described. The hosting platform is just a big basket that holds, you upload all your content into, and it distributes it to iTunes, Spotify, and everywhere else you want to distribute it to. So once you do it, you just want to go to Buzzsprout.com is what I would recommend, but there's a lot of different options now. But they do have free options, but it's limited, so you might just have to pay for it. Totally up to you. So basically, when you're here, you can just simply create your podcast. This is general information. You provide them with your podcast title, podcast description. You want to upload your podcast cover art. You want to upload the sector or whatever it is, and then the artist's name. Once you have that, you want to attach your RSS feed. It gives you an option where you can copy RSS feed and you can paste that in here once you have that, or it generates one for you, right? Then what you do is you start uploading episodes. So you just go to episodes, you upload a new episode. Honestly, this is very simple. You just have to go in, create an account, just like creating a Facebook account. It's kind of that easy. So once you have that, you click on upload, you upload the file that you want to include. You input your episode title, your episode description on here, and then your episode artwork, your season, episode number. It's honestly one of the easiest things. And once you save episode details, honestly, once that is done, provides you with an RSS feed. And once you are done with that, once you have your RSS feed, this is what you then copy and put into iTunes, Spotify. You just have to set up an account with iTunes and Spotify, and then copy your RSS feed and simply paste it on there. And that's all you need to do to be able to launch and create your own podcast. I hope this was actually valuable to you guys, because I was trying to create just an overview. I hope you don't feel overwhelmed. If there's any aspect of this that you want me to break down in more detail, please reach out and let me know. I'm happy to do that. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.